Welcome to New Story. This is the story of the Bennet family, living in a small rural area of 19th century England, where love, pride, and prejudice complicate the lives of various characters. In Hertfordshire, Mr. and Mrs. Bennet live in Longbourn with their 5 daughters. Mrs. Bennet's greatest desire is to see her daughters married well because their estate will be inherited by someone else, and the girls need to secure their future through good marriages. One day, news arrives that a wealthy young man, Mr. Charles Bingley, is moving into Netherfield Park, a nearby estate. Mrs. Bennet becomes excited, hoping to marry one of her daughters to him. Mr. Bingley hosts a grand ball where the Bennet family is invited. Everyone notices that Mr. Bingley is friendly, kind, and sociable. He immediately takes a liking to Jane Bennet, the eldest Bennet daughter. However, Mr. Bingley's close friend, Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, appears to be reserved and proud. When asked to dance with someone, he refuses, saying that Elizabeth Bennet, the second Bennet daughter, is not handsome enough to tempt me. Elizabeth overhears this comment and feels insulted. She immediately forms a negative opinion of Mr. Darcy, seeing him as arrogant and self-important. Jane and Mr. Bingley start growing closer. One day, Jane travels to Netherfield in the rain and falls ill. Mr. Bingley, being considerate, allows her to stay at his house until she recovers. Elizabeth also arrives at Netherfield to care for her sister, where she encounters Mr. Darcy multiple times. Over time, Mr. Darcy begins to admire Elizabeth's intelligence and wit, but he suppresses his feelings, believing that she belongs to a lower social class. Meanwhile, a distant relative of the Bennet family, Mr. William Collins, arrives at Longbourn. He is a clergyman under the patronage of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, a wealthy noblewoman. Mr. Collins intends to marry one of the Bennet daughters so that the family estate remains within the Bennet lineage. He first proposes to Elizabeth, but she firmly refuses, as she believes in marrying for love, not convenience. Mr. Collins, undeterred, then proposes to Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's friend. Charlotte, being practical, accepts the proposal to secure her financial stability. Around the same time, Elizabeth meets Mr. George Wickham, a charming and friendly young officer. He tells Elizabeth that Mr. Darcy wronged him by denying him his rightful inheritance from Darcy's father, already biased against Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth readily believes Wickham's words and starts hating Mr. Darcy even more. Mr. Darcy, believing that Jane is not truly in love with Mr. Bingley and is only interested in his wealth, convinces his friend to leave for London and forget about Jane. This news devastates the Bennet family, and Elizabeth becomes even more convinced that Mr. Darcy is a cruel and selfish man. A few months later, Elizabeth visits her friend Charlotte, who is now married to Mr. Collins. There, she meets Mr. Darcy once again. After several meetings, Mr. Darcy unexpectedly confesses his love for Elizabeth and proposes to her. However, his proposal is filled with arrogance, as he mentions how much he struggled with his feelings because of her lower status. Elizabeth, already resentful towards him, becomes furious when she learns that he played a role in separating Jane and Mr. Bingley. She strongly rejects his proposal and criticizes him for his arrogance. The next day, Mr. Darcy gives Elizabeth a letter explaining his actions. He reveals that Mr. Wickham is actually a deceitful and greedy man who once tried to elope with Darcy's younger sister to gain access to her fortune. He also admits his mistake in separating Jane and Mr. Bingley, but clarifies that he truly believed Jane was not in love with his friend. Elizabeth starts realizing that she may have misjudged Mr. Darcy. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's youngest sister, Lydia Bennet, elopes with Mr. Wickham. This creates a huge scandal, as an unmarried woman running away with a man could ruin the entire family's reputation. Unknown to the Bennet family, Mr. Darcy secretly arranges for Wickham to marry Lydia by paying off his debts and giving him money. Mr. Bingley returns to Netherfield and proposes to Jane, who happily accepts. Elizabeth now realizes that Mr. Darcy is not the villain she believed him to be. She regrets how her pride and prejudices clouded her judgment. When Mr. Darcy confesses his love for her again, she accepts his proposal with gratitude and joy. Thus, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy overcome their pride and prejudice and begin a happy life together.